So, in other words, discipline should have a subject matter that is peculiar to it, so it doesn't share the subject matter with other disciplines. Another is that the discipline should have a body of classical works. Classical works are, like the Bible and the Quran in Christianity and Islam. So classical works, with the examples that they gave, have referred to the works of Einstein in mathematics and physics. So every person who studies physics must go to Albert Einstein. We have classical works in political science, even going back to the days of political philosophy. We have Plato's Republic, for instance. We have Thomas Hobbes and his book, The Leviathan. We have Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince. We have Rousseau, The Social Contract, and so on. We have Karl Marx, The Communist Manifesto. Now, these are landmark publications that we regard as classical works, even though the classical works are shared with many other disciplines. For instance, Communist Manifesto is said to be classical to not only political science, but sociology and economics as well. Next, it talks about founding fathers. So one of the ingredients is that we must have founding fathers. Political science has its founding fathers. We have the Platos, the Aristotles, and so on. But coming down, we have David Easton's. I'm sure you remember David Easton from last week's class. David Easton defines politics as the authoritative allocation of values. We have, Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was one of the pioneer professors of political science in the United States of America. Was perhaps the first professor of political science to become president of the United States. He was president of the United States of America in the period of the First World War. So these are founding fathers, people who helped to knock in shape these disciplines. We have the body of concepts that are peculiar to a discipline. Every discipline has what you might call a technical vocabulary. Now, this is very interesting because in political science, we use concepts that are familiar. You may even say these are concepts that everyone knows. But when we use them in the technical sense, we have, very technical connotations attached to these concepts. So in place of what you call a country, we use state. A state refers to what is normally known in common language as country. We have government, we have governance, we have legitimacy, we have political system, we have policy. Now, these are concepts that define the language, if you like, of the study of politics, of political science. Then every discipline is expected to have a body of generalizations and theories or laws by which it is able to offer explanations. And political science has its own generalizations. A generalization is a statement that is intended to provide explanation in more than one situation. For instance, we may say that the class rep, our class rep today is a senator, and he's a senator because he won the election. Now, if you want to find out why this particular senator won an election, you are operating at the level of a single case. But if you want to find out why all the senators in Nigeria won elections, you are extending the scope of your generality. So you are going beyond a single individual to now go into a group of people. And what you are looking for would be what common factors there will be that explain why senators won elections. You would find from that explanation that the more general you become, the more abstract you get, the less likely it is that the names of individual senators would become part of the generalization. So you may say, educated people are more likely to win senatorial elections. Or, because we live in Nigeria and we know how elections are won and lost, you may say, people who have a lot of money, who have the material resources, are more likely to win senatorial elections. Now, when you make those kinds of statements, you are generalizing. But that's talking about the situation in Nigeria. If you then extend it to why senators all over the world win elections, you can apply the same generalization. And what generalizations do is that they form the basis first of your hypothesis. Hypothesis, of the kind that I just think, that senators win elections because of this. I have a hunch, I have a feeling. This is something that I think is correct. So if you have that, you're on the way to making a generalization. And the more that generalization proves to be true, the more valid generalization is. So every discipline should have its own body of generalizations, its own theories, and its own laws. And these are the things that I use to explain what goes on. Now, but I think that one of the ingredients that should interest you is disciplinary self-consciousness. And this is very interesting because, self-consciousness simply means that practitioners, that is, students, scholars, in a particular discipline, have a way of relating their own advancements and their own progress with similar departments, similar disciplines. So a political scientist wants to be sure, for instance, that the discipline of political science is not too far below other social science disciplines, either in its methodology or in its analytical tools. That's why every discipline makes efforts to want to make progress. In the case of political science, you would find that this is one of the things that informs the scientific quest in our discipline. You would also have come across in that write-up the name Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn is the one who talks about the structure of scientific revolutions. And he says, how do scientific disciplines grow over time? How do they develop? He says they do so through paradigm shifts. Paradigm shifts are revolutionary. He says in a normal regular science, at any point in time, there's a dominant paradigm. Over time, because of changing realities, the dominant paradigm is no longer in a position to explain all that needs to be explained in discipline, and a counter paradigm emerges to challenge it, and in the process overthrows it and becomes the dominant paradigm. He says that's how all of those things progress. Now, in terms of self-consciousness, disciplinary self-consciousness, the scholars in political science looked at psychology, looked at sociology, looked at economics, and realized that these disciplines were way ahead in terms of the scientific progression. And that's why we quickly adopted the scientific method through the behavioral revolution. That's going back to Thomas Kuhn. But in order for you to properly understand what disciplinary self-consciousness would mean, let's use very commonplace examples. I'm sure that all of us, maybe not all, but most of us would have been through primary school and through secondary school. That means that we had people that, in terms of life trajectory, we would say we all started the race together. 15 years, 20 years down the line, you want to be sure that you are not too far behind your classmates, and you are happier if you are ahead of them. And that's the stuff of which self-consciousness is made. You are always relating your progress to the progress of other classmates, ensuring that you are not too far behind them. Now, political science does meet these ingredients, and therefore it is a distinct discipline. Because one, and perhaps the most important of them all, is a distinct subject matter. And the question is, does political science have a distinct subject matter? It does, because what we tried to do in our very first class, the lecture notes that you had, was to specify the kinds of subject matter that are of interest to political scientists and political science. We found, for instance, that power is very central to our conceptions of politics. We found that conflict and consensus are also key. Decision making. These are concepts that you are not likely to find in other disciplines as primary focus. Now, so it's useful to know that political science is a distinct discipline. But what kind of discipline is it? We have said that political science is a social science discipline. Now, social sciences are also known as behavioral sciences. These are sciences that are concerned with the analysis, the study, the explanation of human behavior. So why do some people, turn out to be great achievers and others do not? Why are some people racist? Why do some people become religious fanatics? Why do market women like to cheat? Why do young people like to play music? Why would young people want to distort classes and, not follow simple instructions, such as muting your mic, and so on? Now, these are all instances of human behavior that require one form of explanation or the other. So the behavioral sciences, political science, sociology, economics, they are all interested in the study of human behavior. Now, why do we call them social sciences? Now, the social, refers to the context within which human behavior takes place. Human behavior takes place within a larger social system. This social system has several subsystems, and these subsystems are like different domains of human behavior. When you are earning income, when you are paying tax or evading tax, when you are dealing with the management of scarcity, you are in the domain of economics. That's the economic subsystem. When you are in the business of culture, of